Harry runs into Commander Riker. Harry hates his teacher and he hates calculus. And Harry joins Unit B375, even though he's not an artist. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Harry Show with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise
Yeah, that's
Crosby.
a lot of Harry. That's a whole lot of Harry in the intro.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 16, entitled When the Bough Breaks, written by Hannah Louise Shearer and directed by Kim Manners. This was February 13th, 1988, and this entire season is sponsored by our good pal, Grandpa One, aka Tim Baum. There it is. How you guys doing today?
Good. Excellent.
Good. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Doing
Pretty
good.
As long as
Yeah.
Harry's doing well, we're happy, right?
How's Harry?
Harry.
How's Harry?
Where is Harry these days? He's a man now.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
a man.
We should
Making
follow up on
dolphins.
him and see if he became an artist, an oceanographer, a mathematician.
Yeah.
A dolphin.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
he became a dolphin.
Yeah.
A
Maybe works
merman.
at the aquarium. You never know.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a cool episode. I actually enjoyed this episode. I felt
Yeah, I do too.
I felt like it was just fun to watch. I thought the storyline was interesting enough for me. I was curious. I didn't know where it was going to go, so that kind of left me like, okay, where is this going to go? Kept me curious and watching. And I thought the performances were great, especially by the kids, led by Wesley. In this case, I thought he did a fantastic job and showed a lot of other sides to his personality that I didn't pick up before.
Yeah. Yeah, he was so wonderful with the kids, and you really got a comforting sense that he was on top of it and he really cared for the well-being of these children. And that, that interaction with the little Alexandra, I think,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely, precious with him. And you really see him being the leader that we know he will eventually obviously become. And it was just so touching. I really loved the themes in this, the theme of climate change and global warming and the ozone layer, how foreboding that is, and how topical, and the use of technology, how technology got the best of them.
Yeah.
And they have to sort of redefine their use of technology so that they use it in a positive way instead of a negative way. I mean, these two elements are so current to our lives right now. These are like these monumental themes going on right now in our lives. And
Totally.
so it was a really wonderful surprise for me to see that that's what we're dealing with. Those are the really under the root themes of this episode. Obviously the children is the event, but the themes of this episode, which is what we want Star Trek, to be capable of doing, and it really delivered in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I remember correctly, talk of ozone layer and all that kind of stuff really started only in like the late 80s, mid or late 80s. And so but it feels like Star Trek, again, being so far ahead of their time, they took that and used that as the theme, where that's ruining their health, that's making them sterile or whatever. Right. That theme of becoming dependent on technology and not even really knowing how it works. The scientists don't even know how it works. They just go, the scientists are kind of stopped sciencing, they kind of just get reliant on this technology that's also harming them. It was just a really ahead of their time kind of theme that I really appreciated.
God, yes. I mean, it's like, we just go Google it. Just Google it or look
Totally.
it up on Wikipedia. What are the sources here? What is this? We're not like using our full capabilities of research and what it would mean to I mean, I remember as a kid having to go to a library to get research, go through stacks of books and figure out how to access this stuff. Sure, it's made things a lot easier, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really great because they used the kids as a way to raise the stakes. And as soon as they took the kids, I was like, "Oh, this is war!" Like, I was like, there's no going back from this, right? They're not gonna say, "All right, well, we can't figure this out. Let's leave." This is it. This
Right.
is like a red line moment. So it really raised the stakes for me. Thought it was a great tool. But going back to what you said about the themes, Denise, I agree that these themes were well thought out and well presented. One of the things that the Aldanians didn't want to do was investigate its own source of power, its own real truth. It was avoiding looking in that direction. And I thought that was another kind of interesting thing that the writers brought into the mix, because it was a character flaw to try to not engage, the thing that you rely so heavily on, that's just actually a part of you.
Right.
And ignoring it is not going to help anything either. So I think that was a nice little subtle way to talk about confronting, things and not letting them just be off to the side.
Absolutely. I mean, really, you're absolutely right. I mean, it can act as sort of a religious metaphor too. The God source, the source of all being. That where all we have to do, the custodian.
The custodian.
The custodian that takes care of everything and all, and we just accept that. That's just in faith.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to know where the power source is, we just accept it as all knowing, all being. So it again, these wonderful themes of in this episode and they were able to really underline them in a really subtle way. It wasn't like we've seen the past episodes where they drop this nugget in and then don't do anything with it. They kind of followed through on these. They took it to they came up with a cure or a strategy to deal with the ozone and the radiation. The shield can't be up. That will alleviate that issue. They look at the source of the power. They look at the custodian source, and they decide we have to relearn. We have to relearn everything now, which was a really wonderful, step. That so they come to conclusions and answers in this episode.
Yeah, the other thing I like was, and I have to go back to Will Wheaton and his performance in this. I think he really deserves a lot of kudos, because this was the first time that I was anticipating and excited that he was going to save the day. I was like, okay, now you can save the day, Will. This is the moment for you, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm totally cool with it. Like when he got to the computer and started asking questions, I thought that was a great scene for him. What is the power? Who are the progenitors? And, just being curious as a kid normally is. But those questions are helping us as the audience, see how Will, his mind works, right?
Yeah, right. Well, and he's the one who comes up with the strategy, gets all the kids together and says, this is what, we're basically going to strike. But we all have to do it together. We all have to be on the same page. And that's exactly what stopped everything and allowed for the others to come in. The one question I scratch my head about with this is, again, the captain sends the first officer and Data down to the planet, and I'm thinking, you got to have some security here. You're on a hostile planet. This is a threat, and they don't have phasers.
Yeah.
And I just thought, it just is such a glaring omission, to not have security with them. I just don't understand. It's like every time they go to an away team, Tasha or Worf or both,
yeah,
be there.
Yeah.
Well, I could see one I could see Worf being back on the ship. I mean, somebody be on the ship in that capacity. But if they're going, that's why it's great. You have two of us.
Yeah.
In perfect. That, so one can stay on the ship, but one has got to go down.
It's perfect to have them both, but then you got to use them. You got to use them.
Yeah. I'm just standing there getting hailing frequencies going.
I also feel like it could just be a conversation where the captain says, Tasha, I need two, and you make the decision. You say, Worf, you stay back with me. Data, you.
That's right.
Just some kind of instructions.
Yeah.
And going back real quick to Wes, I had the same thoughts that you guys did, which was, this was the first time that I think they did Wil Wheaton a service rather than a disservice by putting him in a position to where it makes sense for him to save the day. It makes sense for him to be the leader. He's not a 16-year-old or 15-year-old on the bridge where he doesn't belong, saving the day when it doesn't make sense. He's in a group of children where he's by far the oldest and likely the smartest. And obviously this is the right situation to where the viewer looks and says, yes, this is Wesley Crusher's time to shine. He's not going to turn to Katie and be like, well, what do you think we should do, Katie? On the bridge, we just have the youngest person figure it out. So what do you think? It totally made sense, and they really helped him out so much more by giving him this kind of story to where, that's what we want to see in that, and it works. And they didn't. None of it felt forced. It all fit perfectly, and I was really happy that they found that angle, that fit for him, because I feel like that's a much better fit. Plus, I thought it was really cool that we could be reminded that this is a family ship. There are kids, there are parents, there are other things. There are 1,000 people on this ship.
And I got a real sense of family watching this episode. It really felt like, this is a family show of space. And I enjoyed that. Again, Wil Wheaton, the sensitivity he had working with the other kids. Not every kid is good with other kids. But he had a softness, gentleness to him. The way he picked up that little girl and kind of held her like, this is my little sister type of hug. I thought that was those are subtle things that shows that Wil Wheaton, the man, the person, is a good guy, and he's really good with kids. And it translated very well in this episode.
I was going to say, this speaks to who Will is as a person. I have the privilege of knowing him, behind the scenes, not just watching him on this show, but, he has that graciousness with people and with kids. And, you certainly saw it in his performance in Stand By Me, which he had done just before this, that group of kids, that pack that they made, and the beauty of that film, how they all worked together. And this was like sort of the first time on the show in the series that we're seeing Will with other kids. He's always with the adults. And so you get now another aspect of his character, not only as Wesley, but you see something about him as a person, how his heart is, his caring nature, his availability, his speaking on one-on-one at a level. And of course he's got brothers and sisters, so he understands this dynamic. But it was just beautiful, the right note he hit, each scene, just the perfect note.
That makes me think that, and I just thought of this, I feel like that may have been what was missing for Wesley Crusher, the character, was a friend, was a peer, because they gave Cirroc, they gave you that gift with Jake and Nog on Deep Space Nine, but Will never had that, so he was always the kid amongst the adults, and you see how he shines as the kid amongst kids. What if, rather than forcing him onto the bridge constantly in these weird things, what if they just gave him like storylines in the school, the ship's school, or with his best friend, where they get into trouble or they work on a science project together, or his girlfriend, or anything like that? Then it would have put him in an element that was much more natural, and it would have been those great stories could have come out of that.
You got a taste of it, for a brief moment, I think in the episode Justice. Remember when they're playing, all the kids are running and he steps accidentally on the grass, but you got this wonderful sense of these kids being age appropriate, like they're peers, they're hanging with each other, they're playing games, they're, kind of excited, about each other, and the new guy and the girls that he doesn't know if she's flirting, and all those wonderful, lovely things of youth, of childhood you get to experience. And you're absolutely right, Ryan. That would have been such a different element
or a sibling, a younger brother or sister, and then you just get much more of that story and that dynamic.
Right.
I would say that you don't necessarily need a person his age or a sibling per se. What I would have done is I would have taken this episode and placed it earlier in the Wesley storyline before he starts saving the day on the ships. Let this kind of story build his character, show that he show him being a leader amongst the kids, and that earning his reputation to be invited on the bridge and have that kind of caveat. I also think that when you have at the end of this, they could have used this as an opportunity to tell Picard, the Aldanians, to tell Picard what each kid's special gift was. And it could have also been explained to Picard that Wesley is a specially gifted kid with leadership skills or whatnot. Then
before the Traveler.
Before the Traveler, then we see him get invited on the bridge because Picard has learned from the Aldanians that Wesley is special and that he has these gifts that they are able to tune into because of their devices or whatnot. And that would elevate him going forward as being the ensign and this and that, and because they put faith in him because they've seen him perform in this particular instance, saving these kids in hostage situation.
Great point.
Good. Yeah. All just, subtle
changes
that reveals so much.
Hero, the too grandiose of a hero too early, without giving him some nice little, steps to climb up. Look,
and without giving the audience those steps to see, show don't tell. Let's see him demonstrate his skills and his intelligence and his leadership, so that having him on the bridge we can swallow that a lot more easily, because we say, oh yeah, we saw him. He's a valuable member of the crew in his own way.
Yeah, if it wasn't for him, those kids wouldn't have gotten back to those parents, and
and still be making dolphins.
Yeah, we owe him something, and he's proven himself when in the episode Justice, let that follow. And then you get to the point where he's the ship savior, because he's been identified already by alien races, by his own peers, as being
by
exceptional.
his actions, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great point.
But he did a great job in this episode.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
I want to say there's the thing that Wil Wheaton does, which is really great as an actor. When he's being told something in a scene, when he got on the ship, for example, the Aldanians, brought him on and they were instructing him that he was going to be the leader and he was in charge. He does this thing where he registers the information, and he does it in an eye movement. It's a very kind of looking back into his own eye kind of movement. And it's exceptional. It's really great. It means that he's processing what they're saying. It also means that he has doubt. He really registers the doubt in his facial expressions. But it's a very subtle eye movement. And I've seen him do it several times. And it's always on the close up. But he does this thing where it's like almost like when you swallow your food. It's his eyes swallowing the information.
Yeah,
and I think it's a great skill that he has as an actor.
It's a really good observation. I also noticed it in his tone of voice when he starts the next sentence after registering, right? His face tells us what his mind is going through. And then he'll go, well, and kind of like lean into, that tone of voice is telling you, I'm unsure about this thing, but I'm going to go through with it or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a good point. I mean, and like Denise, you were saying with Stand By Me, clearly this kid was a good actor at a young age. Yeah. And, it's great that they're giving him that opportunity to show that, especially like in what Cirroc said in close-ups, because he's got interesting reactions and interesting, facial movements, which is not always the case with kid actors.
Yeah, I absolutely. And, again, this is can be an odd tone. I mean, Stand By Me is a very naturalistic, kids doing what kids would do. This is nothing like what you can even compare anything to. I mean, he's this technological space futuristic genius boy wonder on a spaceship. It's like, okay. And yeah, I know how to play that. It's really impressive. And again, I just had such wonderful moments with Will throughout this first season. And, I just always adored him, and I loved being with him whenever I could. I would visit him in his classroom that he just tricked out beyond belief.
Really?
So creative, so imaginative. And, we always just, and still do, we just adore each other. So it's all good. I was really, again, I didn't really remember this episode, and I wasn't in these scenes with him, but so it was just really fun to see him be just so right and so on spot on this one.
I want to hear more about how he tricked out his classroom, but we've got to take a quick break, everybody. Maybe if Denise remembers any of that, she'll tell us on the other side. Also, some people did a little bit of investigative work on you, Denise, on some of your attire. We'll talk about that on the other side.
In real life? My real life attire?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, we're getting personal, are we?
I know. Here it comes, everybody. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Seventh Rule with superstars Denise Crosby and Cirroc Lofton.
Oh,
go on.
Oh, Ryan, really?
So here are the trivioids of the week, everybody. There's some good ones. It's all Harry all the time. That's kind of like a line. Harry runs into Commander Riker. Harry hates his teacher and he hates calculus. Harry joins Unit B375, even though he's not an artist. Aldea is like the lost city of Atlantis. Aldeans carry flowers in cornucopias. Humans are unusually attached to their offspring. The custodian is a computer built by the progenitors. Humans are a stubborn people. Harry sculpts a dolphin, and Harry's dad is an oceanographer. Lastly, Alexandra's favorite toy is a wig with a tail. I don't know if you guys, that was...
That sticks.
Yeah. What the heck? It was a wig.
I thought that was a tribble.
So did I, but then
it looked like a cheap tribble.
It looked like somebody shaved a tribble and then just like kept the hair. So what we teased, Denise, apparently some of our fans were asking about the necklace that you wear seemingly every show. And so our Dr. Susan V. Gruner sent in that she believes it is something called the Lavar.
Oh God.
Maybe we're wrong here, but it does look just like it. Check it out here.
Yes, Lavar has his own version.
Oh, his own version.
Mine is different. This is called the Lavar. So this is
yours?
Mine is the La Loupe. That's the company that makes it. Brent has one, I have one, and Lavar has one.
Really?
I have mine completely separate and apart from them. I had no idea that they had one until we all were at a con and we all were wearing ours. And I guess Lavar got in touch. I don't know how it went down, but he has his own signature line. It is kind of like it's mine is a very rounded circle. His is a more flat circle, but it is on a leather thing. I also have a pearl one that I wear sometimes.
Well, what's really cool about it is it's also handy in that you can hang your sunglasses on it.
That's the point of it.
Or your glass. I mean, it looks cool.
This is why I wear it, you know. Oh yeah, see, that's more of a rectangular. Yeah, you see with Lavars, it's this is what you do. And this is why I got it. Because I was constantly needing my reading glasses, and I was losing them all the time. You know, I'd leave them on the shelf or the store, or, you know, walk away without.
That's the number one thing. When I used to work in restaurants, the number one thing people leave behind are sunglasses. Our lost and found was just boxes of sunglasses and a couple credit cards, but people come back for those.
I could have bought a second home on the money I've, spent on lots of sunglasses. Believe me.
Wow.
So I just said I'm done. So yeah, this is genius.
This episode, by the way, is sponsored by La Loupe, hopefully, at this point. But Denise, do you remember anything specific about Wil Wheaton's classroom?
So he had a separate trailer. He had to spend X amount of time in school, as you know. So he just put tons of like white little, fairy lights all over, and hung all kinds of strange posters. I can't remember any specific posters, but it was just sort of this like magical space that was just colorful and artistic, and it had nothing to do with like a sterile classroom. He just would, whatever he would find, he would just kind of trick it out, and it was just so fun to go into. It made you, which I'm sure was the point. He had to spend X amount of time in there, so he was going to make it as fun and creative as possible. So, I would find myself ending up hanging out in Will's, classroom.
Who wouldn't? Yeah.
And, and we sort of took our cue from him in that I think I told you once we went into the prop department at Paramount, and got a bunch of props and started decorating our little trailer village, and just tried to make it really fun and whimsical and creative. And then, somebody got angry and made us take it all down.
Oh, what?
No, why? It wasn't hurting anybody, certainly.
It's probably Patrick. I'm just kidding.
This is not a trailer park. This is a serious studio.
Starfleet Regulation 6.57.
Cirroc, before we get back to the episode, you had to probably be in school, right, when you were working on Deep Space Nine. Did you do anything with your classroom? Do you remember, or was it just Starfleet regulations?
Yeah, I was boring. I guess I was boring. I didn't deck out my trailer.
You probably had a much nicer trailer.
Probably at that time, because it was now years after you guys had started. So I remember that when I did get my trailer, the first season, they told me that it was Whoopi Goldberg's old trailer. So I was happy with that.
Oh, yeah. That had to be nice.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is Whoopi's trailer. That's good luck. That's really good luck.
Absolutely.
So I'd never decorated my classroom. And most of the time I tried to get out of the classroom. That was the whole.
That seems more.
I was able to negotiate with my teacher that PE was a necessity.
So you had to go play. So you went and played basketball. You're like, I got to do an hour of basketball and 35 minutes of math. That's just how things work.
It's it's part of the curriculum.
I wonder if you had the same teacher as Will.
I had a teacher named Sydney. A man, yes.
A man, yeah. No, Will.
An older man named Sydney, and then after Sydney was a guy named Pat Jackson, another guy, and he was my favorite teacher, Pat Jackson. I used to call him Pat Jackson, studio teacher, and it was kind of like a pet detective type of thing. But
Pat Jackson, studio teacher. Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly.
You should pitch that. You got to pitch that story.
That's a good one. That could be a series.
Absolutely.
That's a show right there.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun. And do you remember, Denise, when they did this episode, if you saw a lot of kids hanging around? Because usually when there were classrooms full of kids, it was a known thing because there would have to be now 8 of us in that classroom.
Right. That's right. I think, kind of, just because they were wearing such cute little outfits, those adorable little, space ensembles that they had on. I kind of seemed, but again, I wasn't in any of those scenes with them, so I didn't get to act with them. But I remember them being around. Yeah, definitely.
I thought it was really cute too when Wesley is holding the girl's hand and he walks her into the bridge at the end, and he says she wants to say thank you. They also
Picard was such a mess.
Yeah,
it's like, what am I going to do with this thing?
I know. I was hoping that when he did eventually pick her up when he was still visiting on Aldea, that he would have come back into the meeting room with her still in his arms.
Oh my God, that would have melted people.
He didn't.
No, he couldn't, because I thought that would have been a really great character moment, and he of course then would have played the end moment quite differently. You would have to, when she comes back in, to say thank you and bring those flowers.
You are so right. Can you imagine if after that she comes in to give the flowers and Picard kind of kneels down and melts, and he has like this special moment with her, and it's like everybody kind of disappears to him and he's just talking to her, thank you, Katie, or whatever it was. And then she leaves. And then the funny moment is he turns around and he goes, and he gets back, he fixes up. He's like, okay, back to, and everybody's like, that's a different funny moment, but it's adorable. You're right.
Exactly. It would have been a really nice way to play that.
And he played a lot of beats though.
What?
He played a lot of the awkward moment beats though in this, where he would just I'm not very good with children. And then Picard's face is like, neither am I. But
Right.
so I did like the facial expressions. He gave those a few times where, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to say we also did, by the way, everybody, have a special guest star in this episode. There was one of the kids' names was Rose. Let me look that up. Yep, Rose. And it was played by one Mackenzie Westmore. I'm not entirely sure which one it was. Maybe it's this one. Tough to tell 35 years later, but Mackenzie Westmore, Michael Westmore's daughter, actually was in this episode, and she played one of the kids for a moment there. Also, did you guys notice the guy that played Radu? He has the most recognizable face. I'm like, I've seen this guy 50 times, and I have no idea when or where. So just now I was looking him up. His name is Jerry Hardin, and I'm sure there are a lot of people in the live chat yelling at me saying, obviously, that's the guy from fill in the blank. But probably where I recognize him from is a couple of other episodes of The Next Generation where he plays Samuel Clemens, who everybody right, and that was in seasons 5 and 6 Times Arrow. So he plays Mark Twain which is a very good Guinan and Picard 2-part episode. It's a very famous one. And he also played in Star Trek Voyager. He played Dr. Neria. I don't remember what character that was, but it was a first season episode called Emanations. So that's probably why I recognize him so much. But he's got, an extensive IMDb page, of course, with things like The Golden Girls. Maybe I've seen him in that and other things. But anyway, he's one of those guys where it's like, as soon as he comes on screen, you're like, okay, this guy, I've seen him 50 times and I don't know where,
Right. The woman that played the adoptive mother of Harry, I was so surprised. Her name is Lisa. I forget her last name. We were in acting class together forever.
Really?
Yeah, I had forgotten completely that she did this episode.
Was it what? But we don't remember what the character's name was.
I don't remember the character. I don't know if they ever
Rochella. Maybe it was Rochella.
It wasn't Rochella. Maybe it was Duana Ivy Bethune.
No.
Or Michelle Marsh.
No.
Yeah, it's tough.
Marsh.
Yeah, I don't know if we got her name, the character. I don't know if we got the character's name.
I don't think so, because I wanted to write it down to scroll it.
Oh, bummer. But you were in acting class with her, huh?
Marsh. That name is familiar too. Michelle Marsh. Who does she play in the show?
Leda, Leda.
Michelle Marsh.
Oh, I'll pull up her picture here.
Me too. Let me see. That's gonna make me.
This is Michelle Marsh.
No.
What a mystery.
Gosh, I know.
35 years can do a lot to us.
Oh,
God.
Her so vividly in class too. Maybe one of the group will know what I'm talking about.
But it's not Rochella, played by Brenda Strong, right?
No, Brenda I know as well. Yeah. What? Oh, this would Lisa something. Lisa. Oh, goodness gracious.
There was a Laureen.
Mind is a terrible thing, isn't it?
Laureen Mendel. There was a Susan Duchot. There was an Amy Wheaton. Oh, Wheaton's. Wait a minute. Is that Will Wheaton's
Yeah.
Brother and
Yeah.
sister, Amy Wheaton and Jeremy Wheaton, they were also
They
extras.
gotta be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
be.
amazing.
Yes. Right?
Oh,
That's
way
so
to pick
fun.
that up.
Wow. We would have missed
Good
that.
find.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't notice otherwise. So they had Will Wheaton's brother and sister. They had Michael Westmore's daughter. They're just like, all right, who's got kids? We need
Yeah.
Anybody got
episode
kids?
with kids.
That's essentially what it was.
Bring them in,
bring your kid to work there.
And they get a paycheck this time.
And
you
they
get a paycheck for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not dumb.
Wow, that's
that
cool.
was smart. So no wonder Will was so good with the kids. Half of them were his brothers. We're brothers and
That's so
sisters.
funny.
It's like home. Just like
Yeah.
home.
Well, that reminds me, you guys, it's just about time for the home run of the episode. Thanks to Carrie Schwent for hooking that up. That cool baseball.
Yeah.
What do you think, Denise? Who gets the home run of the episode now that baseball season has officially begun?
Right. Well, I think for real, it's Will Wheaton in this episode. He just brings such warmth and expertise and a level of just performance level that we haven't we've been just craving. He just plays everything perfectly. The notes, we see a depth in his person. It's appropriate, everything he's doing and the way he's behaving and acting. And he just hits it out of the ballpark.
Mm-hmm. It's a tater. What about you, Cirroc?
I agree 100% with Denise on this one. Will was exceptional in this episode. He really shined. I believe that he was somebody that gave me some kind of comfort, knowing that he was the person kind of watching over the kids. I felt at ease that he was, monitoring the situation, show me what's happening with this kid, with that kid. And he brought a lot of tension down for me because that I felt safe that the kids were in good hands. And I like that about him. There was a moment when one of the parents says, the last time I saw him, I yelled at him. And that reminds me of anybody who has a loved one and they're about to lose them or they lost them and they remember the last time that they talked to them. It's always the most. It's like, wow, the last time I was, saw that person, and you never wanted it to end on a sad note or a bad note, like an argument or a fight. And I could sense the grief in that parent when he said, the last time I saw him, I yelled at him. It felt like that's not how I wanted to be of the last note. And that's why I really appreciated Wesley being a guardian, being like the chaperone, and saying, I'm going to make sure all the kids are fine. I'm going to check in. I'm going to tune in with them and ask them how they're feeling and really get to know them. And so I thought that's what really made him stand out in this episode. Also really loved the scene when he started to get the gang of kids together to revolt and protest. When he goes to wake up that little girl who might be Michael Westmore's daughter, but when she wakes up, she snatches up and looks, and I thought, boy, that's great acting even for an adult, the way she woke up.
I thought the same.
And she really was like, terrified. And I thought, that is great. And so the kids really, in general, all the kids did a great job, but Wesley was just really a shining in this episode.
Great points about always looking back at the last thing we said and always reminding ourselves that that's always a possibility. So always make sure that the last thing you say is at the very least lukewarm, even if, So my home run of the day was just going to be the kids in general because, they did fine. And I'm usually a tough critic on kid actors, And Star Trek tends to do a good job with kid actors. Cirroc is a shining example of that. But also, secondarily, I'd like to give the home run of the day to Hannah Louise Shearer for writing this and Kim Manners for directing this, because Hannah wrote this in a way for the kids to work. You know, if she gave too much techno babble or too many things that make us go, no, there's no way a 16-year-old can do that. You know, she gave us a script that works with kids. And clearly the director, Kim, is going to have to work with these kids and know how to work with these kids. And she obviously did a great job. So both of them, I think, set these kids up to succeed. So big shout out to them there.
And Kim is a man.
Oh, Kim is a man. Oh, Kim Manners. Okay. Should have guessed. But anyway, yeah. So big kudos to him for being able to communicate with the kids in a way that makes them shine rather than makes me roll my eyes, because I roll my eyes a lot. So that's it. Let's give a special thanks to. Did Kim work other episodes?
I believe so. I do believe so.
Good. Thanks for correcting me. I'll check that out. Okay, so.
And we didn't have any female directors.
Yeah, only writers, it seems. Okay, so a very special thanks to our friends, Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan. Nice. That sounded more like Blanca. Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, DQ, Neil Akasaka, our pal Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach-Heid, Jed Thompson, Steve Case, I can never get this right, Steve Case, a.k.a. Joe Bugbuster, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, who's actually a bug lover, coincidentally, and Jason Okun. He doesn't care about bugs one way or the other. All right. Probably. Everybody stick around. We're going to hit the free-for-all right now. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the 7th Rule. This is the free-for-all. Melissa Longo is here, as is Homer Frizzell, a.k.a. Tom Selleck. Allison Leach-Heid is here. Stephanie Baker with a Mike Gu cameo. We've got Kerbin today. The Dark Lord Kerbin joining us. Mai is live in Tokyo. Tierney C. Dieckmann is back finally wearing cool colors. Steve Case, a.k.a. Joe Bugbuster, is here. What's up? Carrie Schwent is also here. Anna Post and the Matt Boardman. First things first. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
I like this episode. I'm going to say 7.6.
Anybody else have any guesses? That Eve England said she couldn't make it today. She sent us an email saying that she liked it because she liked that it showed the kids and it showed that there's family on the ship and it was really nice. She said she'd give it a 10. She didn't say 10, but it was something like that. But she did say good things about it. Anybody else have any guesses?
I would have thought lower than 10.
Maybe 6.6, 6.7.
I'm gonna go 6.8.
All right. The answer is 6.4.
No.
I know.
Rude.
What's going on?
Ooh.
That's not nice when we've got Jerry Burton here. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Mm.
Rude.
Very.
So I guess Steve Case was right. Lower than 10. Melissa, would you like to please start us off and tell us your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, I actually like the overall premise of this episode. There's a couple of messages that I got from watching this. One is of conservation. They seem to be fully aware of pushing, like, a message of conservation, which I love. But also one is that complacency can be a dangerous thing. And technology can be a useful tool, but we probably shouldn't surrender all of our power to it. So we need to figure out a way to balance, our relationship with technology and not letting it dull our wits. And because we need struggles and challenges to grow and learn and all of that stuff, which is why Harry needs to take calculus. He needs that experience. He needs that challenge to push him forward with calculus, even though he wants to be an artist. So that's the overall thing that I got. One of my favorite moments in the whole episode was the very end when Alexandra leaves the little puffball on Picard's back. And I read that Vanessa, one of the twins that played Alexandra, improvised that moment and they kept it in. That wasn't in the script. And yeah, so it gave me a chuckle. And yeah, those were my thoughts. And visually, there's a lot of visuals that I really enjoyed in this episode too. The power source part when they were walking in looked pretty cool to me, and then the images of the corridors kind of looked cool to me too, spacey. So
yeah, the brilliant twin actors that played Alexandra, Jessica Bova and Vanessa Bova. Good knowledge there. What about you, Homer Freezy, out somewhere in New Yeezy? Your thoughts on this episode?
Yes. I echo what Melissa said, and then I've been in touch with Anne Marie as well, and so I have references to children of folks that are involved in Star Trek. Rose, of course, played by Michael Westmore's daughter, Mackenzie, and then there were two of Will Wheaton's, like a brother and sister, I think, that were in there, and then there's someone who was in Fiddler on the Roof, who was one of the main actors, one of the parents. Michelle Marsh, I think it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Beyond that, I've got this image here, and I have to think that perhaps Picard and Beverly should be fitted with glasses, because that seems very close to me. So it's a concern. I was told, don't sit too close to the TV. And I think maybe they got complacent in the future, and I'm worried about them.
Very good.
Yep.
You'll be here all week, everybody.
I will.
Great stuff, Homer.
Well,
Allison,
it's stuff anyway.
Allison Leach-Heid is here. It looks like that's an Abyssinian kiosk creation. Looks like beautiful.
Yes.
What do you think of this episode?
I like it. It's pretty classic Trek. Reminds me a lot, weirdly, of Spock's brain, because I just watched that episode. And there's a computer that's running everyone's technology for millions of years, and it's all going downhill because I forgot how to fix it. So it's classic Trek. I really liked Will Wheaton's acting with all the kids. Thought he did a great job of, it looked like they were all comfortable together, and especially him with the twins for Alexandra. They had some nice little moments, which was nice to see. But I think my favorite moment was Katie, when she was playing the instrument with her group member. Pod. There we go, Pod. That music was the Travelers' music, the sad songs.
Oh, is that
I really
right?
liked that they brought that back, because it was a nice theme.
Good knowledge.
Nice to hear it again.
Did they
So-
play
but
that same theme at the end? Because I thought it was the same song, but I didn't actually check.
that I don't know.
Okay.
So, and the cool thing, one more little thing about the power core at the end was just a model that Okuda made with toys parts and tank model kit bits, and part of, I have to look at this otherwise I'm going to get it wrong, from the motion picture, the bottom of the space dock model to make that with a acrylic tube that they put a light up and made it colorful. So I thought that was a cool way of not spending too much money and getting a really cool effect.
That's probably why they love the Okudas and Doug Drexler, was because they made stuff out of tire irons and waffles. They're like MacGyvers out there.
MacGyvers. Yeah.
Good stuff, Allison. Thanks. Stephanie Baker, what is up? Dr. Stephanie Baker, that is, of course. Your thoughts on this episode?
Hi. Well, first of all, I'm wearing a Voyager t-shirt. It's the Voyager. And I have Michelle Hurd behind me. I'm in Mike Goo's Star Trek room. I have always liked this episode because it has such TOS vibes, and Wesley has like a positive role as opposed to being told to shut up. But watching it recently, I've always been a little creeped out by the Aldeans, and they say, "We mean you no harm," but they really do mean harm. And this episode to me is an allegory to institutions like the Indian boarding schools here in the US, when the government, along with religious institutions like the Catholic Church, took children, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes involuntarily, from their homes and raised them in boarding schools. And they thought that they were doing the right thing, but they were causing harm and trauma. And I know about this because that happened to my father. Other countries did this as well, such as Canada had their residential schools, and Australia did it too with schools for the Aboriginal children. But despite that, I do like this episode. I'm a little discreet. Like I said, it's hard to watch that main Aldean, say "we mean no harm," and I think he might even believe it. And then in the end, when the scenes that I really like is actually when the Enterprise goes spinning, when it's pushed away. I thought that's a really cool effect that holds really well.
Great stuff. Also see Chancellor Laurel behind you.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, looking good.
Look at that.
The Dark Lord, Chris McGee, also known as Kerbin, is here. What's up, Chris? What'd you think of this one?
Zoom played a little trick on me, apparently, for April Fools, I guess. I thought this was a fine episode. I know it's another, hey, the aliens look exactly like humans episode, Ian. Why isn't that the central story? To be fair, the end universe explanation will come in season 6, so hold on for that. It's sort of an explanation anyway. It was great seeing Jerry Harden again. Sorry?
I think it was just an echo.
Okay. Great seeing Jerry Harden. Of course, he's going to be coming back in a later season playing another famous character. I'll won't say any more about that. That'll be a surprise. And also, he played a character in one of my favorite Voyager episodes, Emanations. Also, as Allison noted, that final scene, that music that sounded, you noted that as well, Ryan, that it seems very similar to the Travelers' music, and of course, Melissa loves that scene. The track name for that song on the Ron Jones set here is actually called "Attack of the Killer Furball." little trivia on that.
That's awesome.
Great.
I didn't catch any NAMs in this episode, so that's like what, 3 or 4 episodes in a row now there weren't any NAMs. That's pretty
they're depriving
amazing.
us.
Finally, it was hard to pick a good phrase or line of the episode in this one, but I think I landed on a decent one here. Troy's line of humans are unusually attached to their offspring.
Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, it's unusual. Well, thanks, Chris.
I'll save my other nitpicks for things left unsaid.
Yeah, great stuff. I also wanted things left unsaid, talk more about that Voyager episode, because we noted that, but I didn't remember the episodes. Well, and Stephanie right now is pissed. She's like, you don't remember Emanations? Anyway, we'll talk about that a little later. Carrie Schwent is here. She's never watched a Voyager episode in her life for some reason. But what do you think of this episode?
I enjoy this episode. As a huge X-Files fan, it's always cool to see Jerry Hardin. Again, I'm a mental collector of voices, and he's got just another one of those fantastic voices I could listen to for hours. That dolphin sculpture that Harry makes, I love dolphins. I want that little guy. It was whoever made that. It was beautiful. Just the color of the wood was beautiful. And Q has a little bit of a nitpick, but we'll save that one for the things left unsaid. That the scene with the handoff of the little tricorder bit between Beverly and Will was just fantastic, and he's keeping up appearances with the thing while he's standing behind her scanning, and she has no idea. That whole scene just absolutely cracks me up. And a card with the little girl just is completely melts your heart, and she's standing there with her arms up, and he's looking down at her like, wait, okay, fine, I'll pick you up, even though it's a little bit weird. But she was just the cutest thing ever. But I do have my limerick for the episode that I will impart before I cede the floor. A planet appears people thought was a myth. To have more children is their fondest wish. Some of the ship's kids are taken. Aldea offers them compensation. Thanks to Beverly, the planet will flourish. Not as good as my one from the Binar episode, but
nothing's going to top that.
I know, that was genius.
Great stuff, Carrie. Good knowledge on the X-Files. By the way, Kim Manners apparently is a big X-Files director as well, so there's probably a connection there.
I read
Steve
that too.
Case, aka Joe Bugbuster, is here. Welcome. How are you, and what are your thoughts on this episode?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. What a horrific beginning to this episode with all the children being stolen. This is not like a feel-good episode, at least not at the beginning, and like others have shared, it certainly was a reminder of some other horrible things that have happened right here on Earth. I did recognize some of the guest stars, like Jerry Hardin, for example, that folks have been talking about. Strangely, I didn't remember the episode itself. It just hadn't left that mark on me when I first saw it years ago. I recognized some parts, like the girl playing that musical instrument and Wesley being introduced to the computer, but the episode itself, I didn't really remember. It was kind of strange. The custodian that was built long ago by the progenitors arranged all of this, but for some reason, we never actually see the custodian do anything other than basically introduce itself to Wesley. So that was a curious lack of a twist in the episode, I guess. But obviously another story of those who trusted their technology a little too much and became dependent on it and forgot how to repair it or question it. And but it was sure tied up at a nice bow at the end, with the little girl bringing up her flower, and we saw again that Captain Picard just, I think someone had mentioned on a previous episode about how he doesn't like children. I don't think he has a problem with children. He's just incredibly uncomfortable around them. So I thought it was too cute an ending in several respects, but I'm glad I saw it again.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you very much, Steve. Tierney C. Dieckmann is hanging out, and she wants to talk about this episode, and we want to hear about it. Your thoughts?
Oh my. Well, definitely love it for Jerry Hardin. I mean, he's a legend. The X-Files, of course, Deep Throat, and I'm a huge X-Files fan. So anytime I see him in anything, X-Files, Star Trek, everything. And of course Denise's role in X-Files, and everything else you pop up in. You're another one. I hear your voice and I go, that's Denise Crosby. But I've always particularly liked this because of him being in it. And there's something quite appealing about a fully concealed, isolated, hidden planet full of, not many people and no children, and they're all super afraid of sunlight and don't know how to deal with it. Like, can I relate? But one thing that struck me with this that never really had before, I guess I just didn't pay enough attention. This could have been so much worse. This whole situation. I mean, they threw the Enterprise, and then that threat, your children will be grandparents. Are you kidding me? Do you know who you are screwing with? Do you know what you just did? Like, and they are so lucky they got the diplomat captain, Picard. So lucky that he is whom they encountered. Like, Sisko would not have handled this the same way. This would have
Janeway.
been. Oh no, this would have been an all-out event. Like, and it could have been handled in a very different way as well. They have the technology to toss a starship light years away, as well as many other things that they know that they've gathered and they need help. I mean, they have the ability to shield their entire planet, which should have shut down their whole atmosphere. They should be long dead, but okay. We'll science that away. But there could have been other options, but this is one of those I like it for the vibes. I like it for the mystery. There's some sinister feelings, and yet you feel for the children getting this opportunity to express themselves in a way that, we all have that thing in ourselves of, well, what if I could have done what I was meant to do deep down in here? We all have that feeling like there's something that we were meant to do, as opposed to seek out and learn and practice, that it would just click with us immediately. But Melissa made a really great point about that, of you need to learn calculus, but you can still be an artist, Harry, even though it's totally right to, be a 7-year-old mad at doing calculus or whatever he is. But so there are good vibes and bad, and Wesley does a great job with what he needs to do in this. Like, again, another up and down episode. I kind of would have liked to see this later in the series when we had more species of children on the ship. What would they have done with, say, Alexander? Like, things like that. But many things for things left unsaid. I like the episode, mainly for Jerry Hardin, if I'm being honest. His performance, just every time I see him, just makes me happy. And yeah, it is what it is. It is. We'll leave more politically paralleled things for things left unsaid.
And Jerry Hardin, more Jerry Hardin talk.
Oh,
Mai is live in Tokyo, everybody, if you can believe that. How are you today, Mai? What's up? And what'd you think of this episode, by the way?
I liked it. It was an interesting. But I'm clearly the only one that thought of Van Halen when I read the title of it. And the cradle will rock. But the title, when the bow breaks, down will come baby cradle, and all. it reminded me immediately of Icarus. It seems like that's what they're talking about there. Seek the sun, the wax melts, you tumble down to earth and you suffer. The Aldeans, they sought too lofty of goals, I think. When they went for their technology, they ended up nuking their nads. And then when the bow broke, when the environment, the ozone layer broke, they fell. And this was the problem. This is an interest. I looked up the Rockabye Baby how that came into things, and it was apparently written in the 1700s by nascent Americans watching the indigenous Americans hang their babies' cradles from the low branches of the trees, so for letting them hang out there. And then somehow they took that and they said, let's use the treetop. And if you're using the treetop again, Icarus, you're going to fall. The whole thing comes falling down. So I think the message that I got from this was just try to stay in touch with reality, seek a little balance there. The other thing I thought was interesting about this is aldea in Spanish means village or pueblo, and the architecture, the boxy square architecture of the Aldean's planet and the orange clay color looked very much like a pueblo to me. So I thought that was kind of an interesting tie in there as well.
Cool. Yeah, good stuff. That's a good point. Didn't notice that. That kind of orangish, yellowish color. Anna Post is here with our youngest ensign. How are you today, Anna? And what did you think of this episode? If you had time to watch it with all the baby work that you're doing.
I did have time to watch it. She sleeps some and is very vocal right now. But I always like this episode. This is one of those 21st century references. So I find it interesting that they talk about being able to fix the hole in the ozone that we had created in the 21st century, and basically almost had the same issue of wiping ourselves out, but we fixed it, and they've done enough with the ozone that holes are starting to close in certain places. They're not as bad as they were, which is kind of funny seeing that now when it wasn't the case when this episode was written. Also, just any time any society gives over to the computer, things go wrong. Like it happens, land out. Lots of like a Trek theme is don't become so complacent. Like when did they stop having people who could fix the computer? Or do they not have doctors? Is the computer running the medicine? And it was a catch-22, and that's why it couldn't figure out that it was itself that was killing them. Just the little things of what the computer does and what other people do. And it always makes me wonder what those kids grow up to be, because they were specifically plucked out, said they were extra special, and these are their talents. These are the best people at these jobs. When those kids grow up, they're going to have this experience in their head. Do you think they followed that track or felt they had to follow that track? Or did Harry decide he liked calculus and wanted to do math? I wonder if they, because of this, felt pressure to actually follow that thing that they said they were best at, as opposed to something else that they might want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
But
good stuff. Nice Captain Proton shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
The Matt Boardman is here, everybody. Thank goodness for that. Your thoughts on this episode?
I would just like to say I stand in solidarity with Harry there, because calculus and I we had a bit of a fight twice when I was in college, and it won both times. I seriously, I still walk with a limp today because of it. But for real, after, it was one of those things, as I got out of high school, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with my life, because, I had going through high school, I always had this, I grew up watching the NBA, had these dreams of playing in the NBA. And then I had a coach my varsity year, my senior year, who showed me that maybe I that was not a viable option for me. So I thought maybe I love Star Trek, so maybe I'll become a computer engineer. And as part of those computer engineering courses, you of course had to take calculus. And I think that my mistake was trying to take it online because I didn't want to have to go into class. And yeah, I had to take the class twice. So that's how I ended up being an artist, because I didn't have to know calculus for that. But I really I like this episode. It's cute, and I think that it's when you become a parent, it kind of, those things, you look at it from a different perspective than when I was growing up and watching it. And I mean, I can understand Crusher, being upset the way that she was upset about the kids, what's going on with my son, and being protective, and Troy's line, while it may be a little bit of a throwaway, humans are very attached. It's like, yeah, my son's going to be 18 this year, and I'm looking at that the days in which he's with me are fewer and fewer before he goes off into the world. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I actually do have, I understand that. Yeah, we do have an attachment to our kids. And, but I think that, I look at like Harry's dad, and I understand, because like as his dad, he's like, look, I know things that you don't know, and I want you to be prepared for life. And that's kind of how I'm feeling now as my kid gets older, or one of my kids gets older, but and you want to make sure that they're prepared. And so I like the idea that these kids were special and neat, and had that attention drawn to them. And of course the hug at the end with whatever, the furball tribble, that's always adorable to me, and that always gets my my heart there. But a fun episode. I absolutely love it, and another great Ron Jones score.
Any final thoughts, Cirroc and Denise?
Oh, wow. I always love hanging out with you guys and listening to your observations and insightfulness. And but there was one thing that Anna made me kind of ponder, and that was about these kids. There was the one scene when the young girl is with quite the older gentleman, the music scholar, and she's channeling this instrument that really left me uncomfortable. And I was thinking, these kids are being told what their specialness is and going to just experience that. It's like they've been taken out of a holistic environment, not to even mention their own, of course, attachment to their own families, but made to kind of focus solely on this one skill, which of course the great artists and minds have a wealth of different experiences that inform their mastery, that make them who they are, so it's like this torture almost, that I kept thinking, how long is she going to be sitting with this man all day, every day, and that's all she's going to do, and that will create her genius, and what that will do is destroy her. Because I have seen so often, whether it's athletes or people, that have practiced instruments, been told to, practice 10 hours a day, they often crack, or they walk away from it completely, with that kind of rigid sort of attention to one thing. So it was sort of it's an odd element, and Anna, what you sort of prompted me in sort of thinking about that. What I love, are the references, to climate, technology, bringing those kind of elements into the show. But I think the best part of this episode for me is watching Wesley engage with children. You know, he is constantly only with adults. And for a whole other element of his personality and his warmth and who he is able to come through. You know, we talked a little bit about this in the episode, but that's really it would have been so nice to have more of that in the series, you know, more of his experience with his peers. Mm-hmm. You know, we would have had a different relationship to Wesley Crusher. The other thing I'll leave you guys with is, speaking of the Okudas and Doug Drexler, I am going to be spending the evening with them tomorrow night.
Oh, cool.
At the California Science Center, where there is a tribute to, it's called Yuri's Night, and it celebrates Yuri Gagarin. And I will let them know that we talked about them both today and give a kind of nod to Michael's incredible design in this particular episode. So it's going to be a space party tomorrow night, and lots of other folks from Trek, and lots of the real deal tomorrow night, the real scientists and astronauts. So, you know, in honor of Artemis 2 being announced this week, and all kinds of cool stuff is happening. So I will fill you guys in next time I see you.
Awesome. Very good stuff. Anything to add to that, Cirroc, Lofton?
You know, I thought that it was interesting that this civilization decided to focus only on the arts. And I think that was one of the things that led to their downfall, because they didn't focus on science, mathematics, engineering. Only the arts. I mean, we love the arts, and you know, as a person who's in the arts, I have a lot of respect for it. But I also believe that it can't be the sole basis for knowledge amongst a civilization. There has to be knowledge beyond woodworking, playing the music, acting, things that are artistic endeavors. Some of it has to be based on actual sciences, mathematics. And I think that was another one of the lessons in the storyline, if I may say, when the kid meets back with his father and he says, you still have to take calculus. You can be an artist, but you still have to have an understanding of the basic sciences that govern the way we live. And without it, then you don't have architecture, and you don't have all of the things that we need foundationally to have a functioning society. So yes, arts is important. Yes, it should be, encouraged, but it can't be the only thing that one's identity is, or their knowledge base is based off of.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff, Mr. Lofton. I thought the same thing. How they're going to figure out computers if all they're doing is playing music and building dolphins? Not that we love those things, but it needs a balance. Well, thanks, everybody. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to Melissa, Homer, Allison, Stephanie, Chris, Mai, Tierney, Steve, Carrie, Matt, and Anna. And everybody at home, thank you very much. We will see you soon. For myself, Denise Cirroc, and Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, and that hair wig ball thing. See you next time. Yeah, with the tail. Always remember the 7th rule.